Listen, the week that we've all been looking forward to, well, definitely I've been looking forward to, and big up to everyone coming through yesterday as well, with the stream myself, Jonas and Fitz. But yeah, listen, we got Arsenal coming up on Saturday, 4:30, obviously live watch along. So yeah, make sure you guys are there. And yeah, listen, man, it's a game not to be missed, man. And I think this is the game, which I'm gonna say now, if Man United end up taking points off of Arsenal, I think this could be the unraveling of Arsenal's season for me, because I think it's that big of a game, and I believe it could kickstart, our season in terms of definitely getting into the Champions League places. And as I said, man, it's a game not to be missed. And let's hope Michael Carrick, Manchester United, can keep it up, and we'll see what goes on from there. But anyway, listen, we're going to get on to it. Obviously, Manchester United looking for possibly a new manager at the end of the season in the summer. I know people are saying, what if Carrick does well? Does Carrick deserve the job? I think the very fact that Carrick is already being spoken about being given the job, I think it speaks credit for how well he's done against Man City. But do I believe Michael Carrick gets offered the permanent job at Manchester United at the end of the season? I don't. I think it's going to be one of them things where if he does get United into the Champions League and does a good job, then I'm pretty sure there'll be other opportunities for him to take over at a different club, man. And I think he would have definitely earned it, Big up to Babs One Diva, big up. So yeah, he would have definitely earned it for me. So yeah, I just think it's going to be down to Carrick, man, to kind of force Ineos's hand. But I think if Ineos are serious, Ineos should just ignore that and just look at Carrick and say, look, we brought him in for a purpose, and he's done his job, but we need to go and get someone in that we believe can take this team on. And I think that's what should happen. Big up to Fitz, big up my guy, each and every time. And so yeah, what I would say, I hope Carrick, could Carrick in theory stay on as part of the backroom team? I think if he does a good job at Man United, I don't see why Carrick would want to. I don't see why Carrick would want to stay on. You know what I mean? Because for me, I think it would have gone past the case of him being a number two. So I definitely do think, man, if he does well with Manchester United, then can definitely see him moving on. Pogba's got another injury. Fucking hell, man. Madness. Big up to Exedra. Big up, my guy. Big up. So, yeah, I think in terms of the managerial candidates, and again, I've got a good list. And again, I think it's important to have a look at, the different strengths in what these managers are going to offer. And obviously, you guys can see in the thumbnail the three that I've put up there. I think personally, for me, I wouldn't look past those three as being the standout candidates in my opinion. My number one has always been Luis Enrique. Big up to Foxy Danny. My number one has always been Luis Enrique. Luis Enrique. My number one, has always been Zinedine Zidane. But I don't think Zidane. I'd like to say Zidane's not going to be a possibility. Because as we already know with Zinedine Zidane, he more or less needs a ready-made squad, you would say, so he can just come there and use his man management and his aura of what such a good player he was. So I think him coming to Man United, where they are in a bit of a transition, you would say, I don't think it's I say it's not a good idea. I just think on his part, he's probably got more to lose than to gain. So I think the whole Zidane coming to Man United, as much as I would love it to happen, I just don't know at the moment. But you never know, man. Ineos could actually surprise us. But again, the guys that I put in the thumbnail, Xavi, Thomas Tuchel, Xavi, Luis Enrique, and Roberto De Zerbi. And I think all three of them, for me, and again, it's important to understand what Manchester United need in terms of management coming to this club. It's very clear that any manager coming to this club is not going to be a manager, really. They're going to be a head coach because, as we know, the head coach's role is to purely improve the players you have at your disposal. And this is something that, I was massively not with Ruben Amorim on, because Amorim didn't improve any of these players. And, first and foremost, he was brought in as a coach, which he would have known full well as well. So that's why I think these three, you look at the Zerbi, Premier League proven with Brighton, obviously managing Marseille now. Look at what he's doing with Marseille in France. And the way that the Zerbi plays football, that's something that I can 100% back. He's good with the younger players as well. And we've got Kobe, we've got Xerxes, we've got Sesko, we've got Ahmad, we've got Lenny Yoro, Aiden Heaven. The bulk of our first team players that should be starting, Patrick Dorgu, another one. These are guys that are all under the age of 25. So, he'll be very good with working with the younger ones. And again, a lot of you are throwing in names that I've already got on my list already. So big up yourselves. Keep your questions and comments coming through, and I will definitely get back to it once I've finished discussing what I've had to say. So yeah, for me, I think the Zerbi for me ticks all the boxes. The kind of football he wants to play, Premier League proven, and I think he is due. Not saying that Marseille aren't a big club, but I think he's due to go to a Man United, a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, a PSG. I think that's his next trajectory for me in terms of where he sees himself managing, And if I have to say who's my number one, I think the Zerbi's high up the list for me, So he's definitely one that I'll be looking at, as hopefully Man United can get in the summer. And let's not forget as well, he is a favourite of Jason Wilcox. Wilcox has been chasing him for years. And I hope that the Zerbi's name, man, is definitely in the frame for the job. Because I definitely do think, man, he's going to do well with his club. And I think it's important for people to understand that this is a club right now with the players we have. We need coaches. We need a coach that's going to improve these players, And then obviously you've got Xavi. Xavi obviously isn't Premier League proven. But you've only got to look at what Xavi done for Barcelona. Look at the players he's brought through in terms of Yamal. Obviously Pedri was there before him, but, he made Pedri a fundamental player in the midfield. You look at Balde as well coming through under Xavi. You look at Gavi as well, Pau Kabasi, Fermin Lopez. Again, all these players come through, Barcelona's La Masia. And if I'm looking at the players, as I mentioned already, in the team that we've got already, if we're looking for a coach to improve these players in a system that they're more familiar with, I think Xavi definitely has to be in the frame, And I think when there was talk about Xavi taking over as interim, that was never a possibility for me. Because if you've got a guy that's managed, arguably one of the biggest clubs in the world in Barcelona, then him coming to Man United as an interim is not going to work. So, but again, he's not Premier League proven, but he is proven with bringing through young talent, man. And I think this is a club right now, we need to be focusing on bringing through young talent first and foremost, and then, progressing from there. So, and again, if anyone hasn't seen what Xavi was doing, in Qatar with Al Sadd, then that just tells you everything, how good of a coach he is. And I keep reiterating, guys, we need a coach, we need a coach. I don't really want to see no pragmatic manager, defensive manager come to this club, because we've had that. We've had defensive under Jose Mourinho. You've had pragmatic under, you would say, Jose, under Ten Hag and Amorim in a way as well. Premier League proven in Jose as well. So for me, we need to get a proper coach to coach these players. And this is why I'm looking at the Zerbi, Xavi, and then finally we go on to Luis Enrique. And I think if we're being honest, someone obviously said it in the chat earlier, I think Luis Enrique will be at the top of the list for everyone, I mean, he'll be on top of the list for me. If there's a chance Man United could get Luis Enrique, then, I mean, he's someone that you just don't pass up on, because the guy's managed Barcelona, PSG, You know, he's managed them to Champions League, both clubs. You know, the way he plays football as well. You know, like the very fact that he's got a midfield of, you would say, Vitinha, João Neves. You know, that are very diminutive in size as well. There's no surprise why that midfield functions very well. Look at the midfield that Xavi had that Luis Enrique had at Barcelona. You know, when he played Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets. You know, it's very similar to what he's got right now in Vitinha, João Neves, and Fabian Ruiz. You know, very similar in terms of the profiles that they were at Barcelona. You know, ball playing midfielders. You know, and if you look at Fabian Ruiz, he adds the physical presence as well if need be. You know, and the one thing people might say, which I don't agree with, is that he hasn't got Premier League experience. Pep never had that, and look at what Pep's done in the Premier League since he's come there. The same with Jurgen Klopp as well. So again, it just depends what people are looking for. You know, do I believe that Luis Enrique comes to the Premier League? I think it's a possibility that he does come there, because I'm looking at him moving on from PSG. The only real possibility that he can go to, for me, is either Man City or Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea have got Liam Rossinier, you know, but we know Chelsea like to change managers anyway. And then you look at Man City, and how long will Pep last there for? So for me, I think Man City is the realistic opportunity for him to go to, and I can't see him going anywhere but Man City. As much as it pains me to say, because I would love him at Man United, but I just don't see it, you know. But if it's a case where Enrique was the appointment, then I'll have to say, as a Man United fan, you know, we can start believing, because that's a serious appointment, you know. And you can tell that with Enrique, he likes the youth, you know, and a certain kind of style of play that he'll play will be reminiscent of what Man United are used to as well. So I think that one there is probably more of a dream, if I'm honest. But if we could get Luis Enrique above any other manager right now, I think, yeah, I mean, I'll definitely go along with that. But I think, being realistic, I think it has to be Roberto De Zerbi or Xavi. You know, I think De Zerbi might edge it because Premier League proven for some people and the style of play. And I think Xavi's one is purely because he's a coach and the style of play. So yeah, that's what I'll be looking at. Guys, make sure we're smashing the likes. Make sure we're subbing to the channel. Make sure we're sharing the channel, and make sure your comments and questions are coming through as well. Just go through some of your questions and comments. Exedra says Enrique for me. Yeah, I think there's no surprise in that. I think the majority of people will be looking at Luis Enrique, purely because of what he's done for PSG and for Barcelona. You know, I think he's someone that literally will tick every box but the Premier League proven that people might be looking for. You know, so yeah, Luis Enrique, man, is a top manager. And as I said, I'm more putting Luis Enrique in the category of, it's unrealistic, because I genuinely do believe this could be Pep's last season if he wins the league. And if we're looking at Luis Enrique leaving PSG, I mean, it's ideal for him to go and replace another Spaniard, you know, and I can just see that happening, you know. And I think it's all set up for Enrique to go to Man City. And I mean, you look at Enrique and Pep, you know, there's a lot of similarities between both of them. Both managed Barcelona, you know, both ex-Barcelona players, both midfielders, you know, both won Champions Leagues with their teams, both had top players. You look at Pep going to Bayern Munich. I know he never won the Champions League, but he dominated the league. Enrique went to PSG, dominated the league, won Champions League. And now obviously Pep's at City, and Enrique's looking to leave PSG. So I think the Pep and Luis Enrique, you know, they've had very, very similar paths, you know, almost identical in a way in their management careers. And I think that him taking over Pep at Man City, I think it's a no-brainer, man. So if I'm looking at realistic, yeah, I'm going to say De Zerbi or a Xavi for me, you know. Again, as you guys already know, my top target has always been Zidane, but I don't think we're going to get Zidane, man, unfortunately. So Ancelotti's a shout. Yeah, he's another one in the list, which I'll go through in a minute. Thomas Tuchel, I'm not rating, to be honest with you. I don't want Tuchel. Ancelotti would raise a few eyebrows. I don't think he'll raise a few eyebrows. I think, for me, the way I'm looking at Ancelotti right now, I think Ancelotti is probably on the verge of winding down his career, which is why he's managing Brazil right now. Do I see Ancelotti coming back to club football? I'll be very surprised. I think the only club he probably goes back to is probably a Real Madrid. I can't see him coming back to the Premier League. You know, obviously he managed Chelsea, managed Everton. I can't see him managing Man United, if I'm honest. Do Man United target Ancelotti? I think United probably like to target a slightly younger manager as well. So I can't really see that happening. So yeah, I'm not too sure about Ancelotti, to be honest with you. Fabregas, another one on the list as well. Big up to Exedra. Ideological managers haven't worked either. Get the squad right and it won't matter which top manager you pick. I disagree with that. Because look at the squad we have now, yeah? I've just mentioned the younger players that we have, yeah? So we have Lenny Yoro, Aiden Heaven, Patrick Dorgu, Lamens in goal. You look at Kobe Mainu, Joshua Zirkzee, Benjamin Sesko, Ahmad. You know, you look at the players that are under the ages of 25 in our team. These are players that multiple managers can work with. And then if you look at the experienced ones, the likes of players that will need to be moved on, the likes of Bruno, the likes of Dallo will need to be moved on as well. Harry Maguire might get an extra year. There's question marks about Lissandro. Luke Shaw will need to be moved on. For me, Mason Mount needs to be moved on as well. You know, I'll give Casemiro, you know, another season because of his experience and his winner's mentality. Ugarte will need to be moved on as well. So again, it's not about the squad. The squad does need to be improved. But if you get a manager that wants to coach these players, you'll find out very quick that we aren't a long way away. I think people that are saying get the squad right, you know, I think people need to understand that the actual squad we have is actually decent. You know, and Michael Carrick has already shown that after one game. You know, I think people were saying the squad was shit because of Ruben Amorim. But Carrick's already come to the club, you know, played the 4-2-3-1, and you've already seen how much this club on the pitch has improved. So I don't really think it's too much about the squad. You know, we do need to improve the midfield. Definitely get a couple of midfielders in. You know, probably get a winger ring as well. But again, I don't think we're a million miles away, man. And I think a top quality coach is what stands between Man United being serious and struggling. And this is why the three that I've mentioned and put in the thumbnail, these are three that are either Premier League proven or coaches. And that's what Man United need for me. We need a manager who has won big. Ferguson beat Real Madrid to win the Super Cup with Aberdeen. There we go. And I think what we need to realize as well is that this is far away from the Ferguson era. You know what I mean? So it's one of them things where if anyone's thinking that we're going to get a coach or a manager in, and the reason I mentioned manager, yeah, is because Man United are not going to be hiring managers anymore. That era of football is done. You know, the majority of clubs that you see now, they use a head coach because the coach's first job is to come in and improve players. And a lot of the players are brought under a regime where you're given players and you have to make it work. So anyone that thinks that Man United need to go and get a Ferguson, someone that's going to be there for, you know, the entirety of his career, more or less, that's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. So people need to realize that time in football is done, you know, and this is why we need to be getting a coach, you know, that is happy with club signings, you know, and their job will be to improve players. So again, man, this is what I'm focusing on. And again, I'll run through the list of the other managers that have been mentioned, and I'll give you my opinions as to why, you know, these can't really be possibilities, a lot of them. Yeah, exactly. Big Up Fitz says both products of total football. Cruyff ball. There you go. There you go. Luis Enrique, Pep Guardiola. And if we have a chance to get Luis Enrique, of course, man, there's no chance you can pass that up. But in my opinion, I think he's going to Man City, and I think everything is set up for him to go to Man City. I could see Ancelotti going back to Italy if he goes back to club football. Yeah, I hear it. I hear it. Maybe back to AC Milan, who knows? You know, but I think if we're being honest, I can't see Ancelotti coming back to England. As much as I like Ancelotti, because I think when you have an Ancelotti, man, you can't pass up an Ancelotti because the guy's a proven winner. You know, he's won a league title with Chelsea as well. Look at what he was doing with Everton. You know, that needs to go, that needs to be respected as well because, you know, the way Everton were performing under Ancelotti, you know, if anyone remembers when he brought in Alan from Napoli, James Rodriguez, you know, these guys only came for Ancelotti, you know, and he had them playing some good football. So, yeah, them things can't be overlooked. But I think Ancelotti goes back to Italy or probably stays in international management, or you never know, man. Probably calls it a day. And what a career, man. And as I said, for me, one of the top 3 best ever managers for me. You know, a proper man manager. So, the squad won't be right, primed to challenge for at least 2 more windows, or at that point, it won't matter which top coach you select. Big up to Kerwin, but again, I disagree because I think you've clearly seen already, yeah. And it's as I keep saying, yeah, this is a stain on the Premier League because Ruben Amorim had us looking that bad, but yet we are what, in 5th place, 1 point off of Champions League football, off of 4th. You know, and obviously, depending on how the English teams do in the latter stages, you know, 5th place can actually be a Champions League. But we was that bad under Ruben Amorim, yeah, and we find ourselves 1 point off of 4th to Liverpool. So again, when people are saying about the squad, just have a look at this season, how the league's going, and you'll find out very soon that we are a coach away, yeah, from changing things. And I truly do believe that, you know. I don't think it's a case where we are that far away from teams that are competing in the Champions League places to be considered a threat, you know. And the fact that Carrick's come in, as I said, he's shown you after 1 game what this squad can do. And as I keep mentioning, we definitely do need reinforcements. I'm not going to come on there and say that we don't, but to say that we need 2 more windows and a top coach, and it won't matter if we get a top coach. I think people need to understand getting in a coach that just wants to play the best players and play a correct system is going to go a long way to seeing what these players are about, you know. And the fact that he's destroyed a team like Man City, who have spent the amount of money that they have, you know, and he's destroyed, you know, arguably the greatest manager of all time, in my opinion, along with Sir Alex and Ancelotti in his first game in the Manchester Derby. You know, that can't be underestimated because, as I said, that's been one of the best performances from Man United team that I've seen in ages, probably since Louis van Gaal days, you know. So, yeah, listen, we do need reinforcements, no doubt, but don't overlook the fact that we need to get a proper coach because we've been scarred for 14 months with Ruben Amorim. Because what Ruben Amorim had this team looking like was an absolute disgrace to football. And what I will say is that we are not a million miles away, man. And hopefully we can continue last week's performance in this massive game against Arsenal on Saturday, man. That needs to be the target for me. So let's see. Yeah, guys, come on, let's hit them likes up, guys. There's 14 of you watching and we got 6 likes. Let's hit the likes up. Help the channel to grow, and make sure you share the channel and sub as well. Big up to Dara Les says, top of the morning. Hope you're well, Gav. Yep, I'm all good, man. I'm all good. You know what it is, yeah? I'm in a positive mood, man, because I'm just looking forward to this Arsenal game because I can see us beating Arsenal, you know. I can just see it. You know, Arsenal got a tough game tonight against Inter Milan. And again, I mentioned this yesterday, yeah? I believe Arteta plays arguably his strongest team. because he's going to want to top this group, Champions League, so they get a favourable draw in the next round. And I think that could be a problem come Saturday, because I think he plays Declan Rice. I think he plays Saka against Inter Milan, and then they're definitely going to play against Man United. And I think this is where he's got to give or take. So it's going to be interesting. But I can see us, beating Arsenal. I'm confident, man. I'll be honest. We need at least 8 signings. Players need backups and replacing. Backup is 1 signing, a replacement, and backup is 2 signings. Again, I disagree, yeah? I disagree, and I'll tell you why I disagree, yeah? We don't need 8 signings. I'll massively disagree with that, yeah? I think, again, I'm going to say it again, yeah? Do not look at some of these players, yeah, that I do rate, yeah? I think a lot of fans probably looked at them and thought, they need to be moved on. But what I would say, the fact that we've got rid of this manager now in Ruben Amorim, I think it's important to not give these players a clean slate, but to judge them under a Carrick, judge them under a proper coach. I'm looking at players that need to be retained, and I'm looking at, again, Lamens definitely needs to be retained. If you want to get rid of buy-in there and then go and get another keeper to compete with him, cool. But that should be not top of the agenda for me. I'm looking at right back. Mazraoui for me is one of the best right backs in this league. So he should be first choice in the 4 at the back, yeah? Then you look at Dalot. I would move Dalot on. And again, if you want to go and get backup for Mazraoui, cool, I agree. Yeah? So that's one player. Centre-backs, I'm looking at Yoro and De Ligt. Both right-sided central defenders. If need be, De Ligt can probably play on the left as well. Yoro could probably do that as well. So I'm looking at, there's 2 central defenders there that for me are 2 defenders that we can use going forwards. And then you've got Aiden Heaven, who's young, and Aiden Heaven for me has shown enough that he can be a regular first team squad member, and he can be someone that should get more minutes. The other central back, if you're having 4 centre backs, I'm looking at Yoro, De Ligt, Heaven, and then you've got between Maguire and Lissandro. Again, if you want to keep Maguire for his experience, and he's like the 5th choice centre-back, cool. If you want to go and get another centre-back, and then that means Lissandro would have to be moved on, and you want to go and get a left-footed centre-back, cool, I'm with that. So that'll be 2. Left-back, Patrick Dorgu for me is a left-back anyway, yeah? And I think Dorgu under a Carrick, under a ball-playing, ball-possession coach, I think you get more out of Dorgu. And what I would say is that, Dorgu has already shown as well now that he can be versatile and play in the wide areas if need be. But I think first and foremost, I want to see Dorgu as a fullback. And then what I would say, if you want to go and replace or get back up to Dorgu or get someone to compete with him, then cool. And then that will mean obviously getting rid of Luke Shaw, which again seems like he's been there forever, which he has. And then you've got Malacia there. Could Malacia do a job as backup? I'll wait and see, because we've got a different coaching now. So you never know, man. You might get more out of Malacia. And if you've got Malacia, Dorgu, and if Luke Shaw does stay, which I don't want him to, as options at left back, I mean, who would you go and target to go and get a left back that you've got to go and spend money on? These are the problems, because, any left back you go for, you're looking at spending between 40 and 60 million, I would say, if you want to go and get a top class left back. And the fact that we've got Dorgu, who we spent peanuts on, and has got potential. I've always said Patrick Dorgu for me can be our answer to Alphonso Davies at left back. I've been saying this for a while, and I think if you've got Dorgu at left back, and then you've got Malacia that can back him up, and let's say you keep a Luke Shaw for the experience, then cool. You know what I mean? Midfield, obviously, as we know, 2 definite midfielders, Baleba for me. And then if you can get a Walton or an Anderson, then I'll be happy with that, to go with Cobby in there and keep Casemiro for his experience. So, again, I've probably touched on maybe 2 players that I would see as backup. And that'll be a backup right back if you move on Dalot. And if Lissandro gets moved on, you go and get another a centre back, a left-footed centre back. So that's 2 players. And then you go midfield, 4 players, 4 central midfielders. For me, the wide options on the right, you don't need to go and improve on that. You've got Mbeumo and Ahmad that can play out there. Shea Lacey's coming through as well. That's another option. On the left-hand side, I'd probably say, me personally, I would love to see Jadon Sancho come back and be another option on that left-hand side. And you've got Cunha who can play out there as well. Dorgu can play there if need be, even though I want to see him at left back. But maybe people might be looking at that side of the pitch as an option to improve. So that'll be 5 players. I'd move Bruno on as well. And again, people will start saying if Bruno needs to be moved on, there needs to be a replacement for him. Again, I disagree, because if you just take Bruno out of that number 10, you can put Ahmad in there. You can put Cunha in there. Xerxes can play there. Kobe can play there. You know what I mean? So we don't need to go and get a direct replacement for Bruno Fernandes. What you need to do is strengthen that midfield area and then move him on. That's it. Because you've got players that can play in that 10 position anyway. And then you look at the strikers. I'm happy with Xerxes and Sesko. I think under Carrick, under a new coach, we can create chances. So yeah, I would probably say at best over the next 2 windows, maybe 5 players, I would say. I think 8, I don't see 8, I see 5 players. And then it will be a case of more signings will follow if it means we're nitpicking at certain areas. But I do believe under a better coach, you'll find that we don't really need as many players as a lot of people think, in my opinion. Again, Mason Mount's another one that I'll move on. But Mason Mount's someone, I wouldn't be so fussed if Mason Mount was a squad player. But where I have the problem with Mason Mount is that he wears number 7 and he's on 250. If number 7 comes off his back and the 250, his wage isn't that, then him as a squad player, I haven't really got a problem with, because you always need a squad player that can come on, that can play multiple positions and fill in if need be. So, yeah, I disagree with the 8 signings, man. I disagree massively with that. Guys, come on, let's make sure we're smashing the likes, guys. Let's smash the like buttons. The like button, sorry. De Ligt and Maguire could both be at the end. Martinez is one big injury away from being sold. I think Martinez, I know Martinez had a good game last week, but is Martinez someone that, I think should be the starting centre-back? I don't really. I think the fact that we've got Lenny Yoro there, Lenny Yoro for me, sooner or later needs to be the starting centre-back, because there's no way that I'm going to look at Lenny Yoro and think that we've more or less taken him from Real Madrid and he's rotting on the bench. I can't see that. De Ligt for me is our best centre-back. You got Aiden Heaven that's pushing as well. Maguire's a good option, for his experience. But Yoro for me needs to be a centre-back partner, whether it's with De Ligt or whoever. So yeah, Lissandro's one that I think Lissandro for me is the one that's most at risk of being sold, in my opinion, We're all sorted, mate. Carrick is a fair choice, but for the future, we have to see. Now, listen, Carrick's only going to be here for the end of the season, I don't think Ineos, regardless of how Carrick does, yeah, I don't believe Ineos are going to say to Michael Carrick, here's the job next season. I think they know that this next appointment is massive, and I don't see them making the same mistake with Solskjaer, And I think Carrick don't talk too much anyway, but I believe Carrick is under the impression that he is here to do a job. And again, can Carrick find his way back to Manchester United in the future? He can, but I think for me personally, he needs to go away really and get experience of managing a team. Maybe that's a bit lesser than Man United, and get that experience. And I think that's what his career path's going to be, regardless of how well he does at Man United. Because he's already shown, that he's a better manager than Ruben Amorim already. And he's only been there, 5 minutes? So that's it, man. That is it. Um, you have 0 prime centre-backs if you don't have De Ligt, Maguire or Martinez available. But again, De Ligt's experienced, even at his young age of 26. Again, Maguire for the squad. I'm not really that fussed with Maguire no more. Maguire was someone for me that the club needed to move on. But I think if Maguire's coming in one game, and he's part of the squad, there ain't really that much of an issue. The problem with Maguire is if he's playing week in, week out. That is the issue. Because things change, you got to play a deep defensive line because he hasn't got the pace. You have to play more compact as well. So if you look at Euro, you look at Heaven, you look at De Ligt, these guys are all quicker than Maguire, so you can afford, to play slightly a higher line, and that will compress the opposition as well. So that is something that needs to be looked at. So, but if you've got Maguire as a 5th choice centre back, there ain't no issue from me, man. But Martinez for me is someone that if you want to bring in another centre back, a left-footed centre back, for me he'll be the one that needs to be moved on, 100%. Let's see. Guys, keep your questions and comments coming through. As I said, I won't go into everyone's questions and comments, but I'm going to go on to the ones that stand out. So, Xabi is close to going to Man United. No, he's not. That's just nonsense. He's not going to come to Manchester United, and Man United won't be targeting him either. Again, you have to really realise that Xabi Alonso played for Liverpool. So Man United are not going to go and get a Liverpool player to manage Manchester United. It's not going to happen. So, I'm expecting us to lose 1 centre-back over the next 2 windows. Yeah, I think that happens. And I think that has to be Martinez. Because Lenny Yoro and Aiden Heaven are part of the future. De Ligt, for me, is a future captain for Man United. And Maguire, yeah, Maguire or Martinez will be the ones that will be moved on for me. And as I said, if I've got a choice between Maguire or Martinez, I'd probably say Maguire because, as I said, Maguire's got the experience. He's an aerial threat as well, and I think he'll offer. He'll offer more for me than what Lisandro will, because in Lisandro Martinez, I think people will look at Lisandro as having, he's good in possession, But we've got Aiden Heaven, who's younger, who's quicker, he's probably physically as strong as him, if not stronger than him, and he's good on the ball. So Lisandro's profile is irrelevant now, in my opinion. So I definitely do think that Lisandro's need isn't that big. So I think he'll be the one that's most at risk, and I think the majority of people would probably agree with that. If you're looking at any centre back that we've got, if you're not including Maguire, then Lisandro's the one that will be most at risk, because I think the majority of the fan base would definitely keep De Ligt, Euro and Heaven. And I'll be very surprised if that isn't the case. Kobe can stay, but I don't think we need Walton anymore. I would have said go all out for Schlotterbeck. Yeah, but whether you think Kobe can stay, Kobe is going to stay. Like, Kobe was never leaving in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people actually deep, yeah? Do you really think Manchester United were going to allow, our best academy products to come through in the first team in most recent years? Do you really think he was going to be allowed to leave Manchester United for Ruben Amorim? I told you guys at the start, yeah? It was going to come down to Amorim or to Manu, which again never should have happened, yeah? And let's just agree, yeah? Let's just say now, yeah? Kobe won that battle. He did. He won that battle, yeah? And the first thing Michael Carrick done, and again, I just see a clip of Carrick and Kobe hugging as well, yeah? After the Manchester derby. And Carrick rates Kobe highly. Again, I done a stream earlier in the week. The comments that Carrick said about Kobe, saying he sees him as an attacker. coming with the whole thing, but basically saying Kobe's a top player, you know. And the first thing he done, he brought Kobe back into the lineup, played 90 minutes, and as I said, yeah, the rest is history. To say that we don't need Walton, I think any club in this country could do with Adam Walton, because Adam Walton's profile is very rare. You know, you don't get players of that kind of level in terms of being so comfortable on the ball in England, really. You know, so what I would say is that I'm not going to come on there and say we don't need Adam Walton. The difference is, do I think we get Adam Walton? I don't. I think Walton is primed to go to a Man City. He's a Man City type player. And I see Elliot Anderson going to a Liverpool, in my opinion, because I think Anderson fits Liverpool in terms of their high energy in midfield. And Walton fits the profile of Man City in terms of, you know, the composure on the ball, really. So, but I'd love to get an Adam Walton personally. Baleba for me is the top choice. And then to get if you can get a Baleba and a Walton to go with Kobe in there, Casemiro's experience, and you bring through one of the youngsters like a Sekou Kone, then listen, man, I'll be excited. I'll be honest, but we'll have to wait and see, man. Yeah, Nico Schlotterbeck is a good shout, but again, if we're gonna bring in a left-sided centre back, we need to be bringing in someone that just comes in and there's no question about them starting. They just start instantly. And I'm looking around Europe right now, and there ain't really too many players. You know, if I'm looking in Germany, left-sided centre backs, you've got Castello Lukeba at Leipzig. You've got Schlotterbeck. That's about it, really, in Germany. And again, does Schlotterbeck and Lukeba come in and there's no question of them not starting? I'm not too sure. You know, I think Lukeba's got a lot of potential. He's someone that Liverpool should have signed. Well, I said that in the summer. Schlotterbeck again is a good option, but is he going to come in and start straight away ahead of Heaven? I'm not too sure. And this I'm trying to say to you, there ain't too many options that you would say have to just start, because you know what Heaven's shown so far. There's something definitely there with Heaven. So. Yeah, I don't think it's a case where, you know, unless we're gonna get someone. Again, a lot of it depends on Martinez. If Martinez does get sold, then for me, you would definitely need to go and get another defender. But it depends how much you're gonna pay, because I think Heaven just needs more game time. You know, more minutes, and you'll see how good Heaven can get, man. So, let's see what happens. You know what I mean? But yeah, Schlotterbeck is a good option, but I wouldn't say Schlotterbeck is someone that we need to definitely go and get. Big up to Mojo King says we need a left winger, right back, and a CM DM mostly. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I think they're 4 positions that Man United will definitely be looking to target as well. You know, Sancho is a no-go. Not for me. Not for me. I know there's fans out there that don't like Sancho for whatever reason or don't rate him. But under a Carrick, you know, under a coach like the ones I put in the thumbnail, Enrique, De Zerbi, or Xavi, I guarantee you now, all 3 of them would love Sancho. They would love his profile. The problem is with Sancho is whether he wants to come back and whether, you know, the club can kind of, you know, sort out his contract, whether he renegotiates a new contract for him to come back. That's the only possible option, really. But I don't think people should be looking at Sancho and saying that we can do better on Sancho, because the left wingers that are out there available are not better than Sancho for me in terms of a footballer. What Sancho will provide, and again with Sancho, you need to understand as well that it depends what you want from your wide players. Because if people are expecting Sancho to get 20 to 30 goals, he's never going to do that, because that isn't the kind of player that he is. But what he will do is play his part, you know, in terms of, you know, creation for the goal scorers or the other players in the team. You know, he's a number 10 playing out wide, you would say. So he's a creator first and foremost. So people that look up their nose on Sancho because they just don't like him. And this links in very well, actually, because I see there's been some quotes on Nicky Butt and Lisandro Martinez going back and forth. Yeah. And I'll tell you what makes me laugh. Yeah. It's very funny how I've heard a lot of fans saying Nicky Butt is out of order for what he said on Martinez. Yeah. But all of a sudden, like, there's no talk about the Sancho and Ten Hag, because a lot of fans were saying Sancho needs to be sold because of, his reaction to Ten Hag. But then they're protecting Lisandro because a club legend, Nicky Butt, has had his say on Lisandro. And again, these are the double standards that are just too obvious in this fan base. It's either you keep the same energy for all players or you don't. So a lot of fans just don't like Sancho because they decided that they can't stand him, and a lot of it is based off of the situation with Ten Hag for me, But it's nonsense for me, really, It's not a talent issue with Sancho. It's a professionalism issue. The team has been purged of that problem, so we don't need to bring it back. I hear that to an extent, but with in general. But I'm not going to say that with Sancho, because there's no one here that knows Sancho's. Like, no one's in the change room. No one knows Jadon Sancho personally in the chat. So people that say it's a professionalism attitude, yeah, you can dislike a player because you don't like their style of play, or or there's something that you've seen them do that you just don't rate, yeah. But when we're hearing about all this professionalism issue, I don't agree with it, because unless you've been in the changing room with Sancho, unless you know him personally, this is just all hearsay from other people. There's other fans out there that probably don't like Sancho, and then what they'll do is splurt out rubbish, and then people just go with it. At the end of the day, I've not seen nothing from his professionalism to say that there's an issue there. Again, there was rumors, or there was talk in the media about his personal life or whatever it may have been. Yeah, but I've never heard coaches or other managers say that he's a problem in the change room. I've never heard that. That's just coming from fans that don't like Sancho, and they're just running with this agenda. That is all it is. Because how do we not know? Yeah, why is there never any talk about Bruno Fernandes? Because I've seen on the pitch Bruno Fernandes has a bad attitude, but why is it we're never talking about Bruno's attitude? But yet people can say that Jadon Sancho, his professionalism is wrong. Again, it's just people just having an opinion, having an agenda, and just trying to split out this rubbish. I'm not with that. As I said, unless you know Sancho personally, it's just talk from others, really. Brother, I bet my week's wages we will sign more than 5 players over the next 2 windows. Yeah, but listen, if we sign more than 5 players over the next 2 windows, I'm happy. Like, I ain't gonna be upset, am I? You know what I mean? I'm just saying to you, when you're saying 8 players, I think if we're gonna put it this way, yeah, if we sell Dallo, if we sell Luke Shaw, if we sell Lisandro and Harry Maguire, Ugarte, if Casemiro goes, Bruno, sell Bruno, Mason Mount, who else is there? Yeah, if we sell them players, that's 8 players. And if we do bring in 8 players, listen, you ain't going to hear no criticism from me. But do I think they sign 8 players in the next 2 windows? I think 8 players is a lot. And I'm looking at the players that we've got, that there's a lot that can be got out of them. I'm not too dissatisfied with that, man. So, but if we go and sign 8 players, then you're not going to hear any argument from me, man. Ugarte, another one. So 9. So if we get rid of them 9 players, then yeah, fair enough. But I think 5 players right now, I wouldn't be against 5 players in key areas. So hey, Man United gonna beat Arsenal, right? Listen, let's hope so, man. Fingers crossed. Let's hope so, because yeah, let's hope so, man. Because as I said, man, it's one of them things for me where it's big, man. It's big because you know we can't. Arsenal for me are not winning this league, but if they was to somehow beat us, you know, their fans are gonna be just being doing too much. So even if we take a point off them, I mean, we have to go for the win as always. But if we take a point off them, then listen, it's a point at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So let's see what happens. When are we likely to see the lick back? Boy, I mean, I'm praying the lick's back this weekend. You know, I've not heard any news. I'm not sure if anyone has any news on the licks. But if we can get the lick back for this weekend, then that'll be a massive boost, man. But the way that Lissandro, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, and even Dalot to come towards the end. I mean, Mazraoui's back. I mean, I'd like to see Mazraoui play against Arsenal at right back, personally. But the way that Carrick set them up and his coaching staff set them up, you know, if we can set up in the same way, I'll be honest with you, man, I'm not really that fussed because the one thing against Man City, yeah, is that Man City, for as much quality as them guys have, never look like scoring. And that's a massive thing. So, yeah, let's just see. Let's just see. Yeah, Ancelotti. Again, guys, before I forget, let me go through the list that I've got, yeah, for managers, just so we're not off sidetracked here. So, again, I've written down a few names, but what I've also done is put down what type of managers that these guys are. Yeah, and this is why it's important for me that we kind of stay away from certain ones, yeah? And again, you guys have... you guys obviously that have been watching the channel for any amount of time would know that my number one has always been Zidane. You know, Zidane for me, I think I want Zidane more because of the player and it's the respect that he's going to command. You know, and imagine if Casemiro stays here and Zidane's there. Like, you know, Zidane will be looking at Casemiro as his like lieutenant because he had him at Real Madrid. You know, the respect's there. So Zidane's always been my top priority because I'm more looking at, I can trust Zidane to play the best players because of the kind of player that he was. Not to mention, obviously, what kind of a player he was as well and what he's done in management so far. But that's more of a fantasy. But I think it's important to remember that Zidane is a pragmatic kind of manager, you know. And for me, I don't want any pragmatic manager. I think we've suffered for too long with pragmatic managers. You know, I want to see a coach at this club coaching these players. So again, you've got Carlo Ancelotti, pragmatic manager, but Ancelotti, one of the greatest managers in the world. You know, would I risk an Ancelotti even though he is pragmatic? I would. So that's one name. You know, I've put in names that I don't think are going to happen, but I thought I'd mention them. Didier Deschamps, again, a pragmatic manager, and he for me, can come nowhere near this Manchester United job for me because the very fact that he's still managing France is just crazy in the first place. I know he's won a World Cup, but for me, the football that he's got this French team playing is just boring. And you think of the amount of quality that France have in their national team, yeah? And they've got someone like Didier Deschamps that's managing it. Like, it's an absolute crime to football. So what I would say, man, I put his name down. The fact that he's pragmatic anyway, and the fact that I don't want him, I just thought I'd put his name down. I mean, a lot of people like Julian Nagelsmann. You know, I think Nagelsmann is a good coach, but obviously he's managing Germany. If he does leave Germany, do I see Nagelsmann going to Man United? I don't. I think Nagelsmann, for me, if he comes to the Premier League, I think it's ideal for him to go to like a Chelsea, if I'm honest. Because Chelsea got a lot of younger players. You know, they like to hire them kind of coaches in the first place. And again, Nagelsmann, for me, I wouldn't mind because Nagelsmann's a coach. But the problem that I look at is that he's a young coach and it's giving me Ruben Amorim vibes, which is why I don't really want Nagelsmann. Even though, as I said, he is a coach. But, you know, he's another name. Pochettino is a bit of a hybrid of a coach and a pragmatic manager. Again, Pochettino, you know, failed at PSG, really. Had a tough time at Chelsea. Obviously, was at Tottenham as well. I think Pochettino train's probably gone for me now. I wouldn't get Pochettino in, but he's another name that definitely the media will be looking at. Thomas Tuchel, obviously England manager. For me, he's pragmatic manager. I don't want him. Obviously was at Chelsea as well. But yeah, I'm sick and tired of pragmatic managers, so I don't really want them guys at the club. Enzo Maresca. I think Maresca is probably a bit of a hybrid, pragmatic and a coach. I've got a feeling, yeah, Maresca. There's two clubs I think Maresca could end up at. One's Man City and one's Real Madrid. I think he could end up at one of them two teams because, as we know, obviously, formerly a coach at Man City under Pep. Obviously, Pep probably hasn't got too long left at Man City. And I think Enrique or Maresca, I was going to say Vincent Kompany, but Kompany's doing a good job at Bayern Munich. I think Maresca or Luis Enrique will possibly be the next managers of Man City. I think it's more Luis Enrique. But I think Maresca's next job might be a Real Madrid, probably. Yeah, I think it might be a Real Madrid. So, and again, do I want him at Man United? Not really. I've got other preferred options. Oliver Glasner. Now, Glasner's definitely leaving Crystal Palace. I know people are saying that, you know, he plays a three at the back. But I don't think he plays a three at the back. I think he adapts to what players he has. And for me, I think Glasner, if he was to come to Manchester United, I could see him definitely playing a four at the back. You know, he'll have better players and he'll just play a system which suits the team, not like what Ruben Amorim was doing. So, again, Premier League proven as well. So he's definitely an option. But what I would say is there's preferred options for me. But he could be a name that United are looking at. But I wouldn't take Glasner. I mean, I say I wouldn't take him, but he wouldn't be my first choice. But I definitely do think he does end up somewhere. I'm just not sure where it is. And I don't think it's going to be Man United, if I'm honest. I think Man United probably have... The fact that they've hired Carrick, I think it should be an eye-opener in the sense of what kind of manager that they'll probably go for after. You know, I think the Carrick appointment is massive because you're bringing in a coach. And if you want to continue down that path, go and get a coach, which is why the likes of Enrique, De Zerbi, Xavi, an Nagelsmann, these guys for me will be in the frame. You know, again, Glasner's a bit of a hybrid as well, coach and pragmatic, but he's got the Premier League experience, which is massive. So Iraola, again, just like Glasner for me. I like Iraola, but I think his stock's probably fallen a bit because of what's going on at Bournemouth. But I think Iraola probably will possibly be next manager of someone like a Tottenham. Because if you remember, before Tottenham signed Thomas Frank, Iraola was a name that they was linked with. And I think they probably go back in for him. And I think he's proven at Bournemouth, you know, with some of the players that he's made look like absolute world beaters. You know, I think he's someone that that will be on the move. Again, just like Glasner, Premier League proven, you know, and he's a coach. Let's not forget. So I think Iraola is someone that will definitely be on the move. I think in terms of Man United, I think they've got other options that they would probably look at for me. So I think he's definitely someone that I'd be looking at. But I think because Bournemouth have done, you know, they've dropped off, I think his name will be, you know, I think he'll be behind a lot of others, in my opinion. And then we've gone on to Marco Silva at Fulham. You know, I think Marco Silva is a good manager. I think he's a good manager. But again, for me, he's pragmatic. And I think the main thing for me is that I don't want no more Portuguese players at this club. Unless you're Nuno Mendes or Vitinha, yeah, I don't want no more Portuguese players or managers at this club because I'm well and truly scarred from what's been happening at this club under Amorim. You know, Amorim's gone now, thank God. Dallo and Bruno need to follow him as well. So that's my main thing for not wanting Silva. Pragmatic, and I just can't deal with another Portuguese manager because I just don't trust these guys. So that's one thing. Cesc Fabregas, and again, I know Exedra mentioned him earlier in the chat, but Fabregas for me, he's someone for me that It wouldn't surprise me if Cesc Fabregas in the future is an Arsenal manager, is a Chelsea manager, Barcelona manager, Spain national coach. I think Fabregas is on his way to becoming one of them because the kind of football he's got with Como, and again, I very much doubt there's many people that would have heard of Como before Fabregas went there, yeah? And what he's got going on with Como needs to be studied because he's another one that's off the production line. You know, I look at former Barcelona, Spain players that are becoming managers. Xavi, Fabregas, Pep, Luis Enrique. You know, there's no, it's probably one or two others as well that I've forgotten about, yeah? But there's no fluke about it, you know? And I think Fabregas, for me, is going to become one of the best young coaches in the game. But I think him coming to Man United is too early in his career. I think he needs to go to a club. Like, if he comes to the Premier League, let's say Fabregas, a good club for him would be, you know, following Iraola at like a Bournemouth, a club like that. And then obviously if he does a good job there, then the bigger clubs will be there. But he's someone that I thought I'd mention. But I think him coming to Man United where Man United are right now, for me is too early. So, yeah. And then you've got, who's this one? There's another name. I can't even read my writing. I wrote them down. I wrote them down, but I can't read the writing. And there was other names in there that I didn't really go on to because there's no point. But again, those are the names that I've put down. And out of all them in that list, the only ones that I would really take is Ancelotti, Zidane, because Zidane's been a favourite of mine for time. I wouldn't mind Iraola, but again, he's gone down the list. And then Fabregas, for me, is more of it's too early for him, you know, which is why the three that I've mentioned, I don't think we can look past those three, if I'm honest, you know, but let me know what you think. Ancelotti is the only one to get us back to our best. But again, you need to realise, yeah, getting us back to our best, what is that? That's what I'd like to know. Because I rate Ancelotti highly, but this club needs a coach. They don't need a pragmatic manager, you know. But Ancelotti, for me, is someone that is exempt from a few of the others that are pragmatic in the list because he's a proven winner. But I would much prefer Man United, for me, to go and get a coach, which is why we've got Michael Carrick right now. So next appointment needs to carry on from that, you know. We've done this too many times by keeping former players as managers. It doesn't work long term. Ancelotti is proven in every league. Yeah, I hear it. Again, Ancelotti for me, as I said, is someone that would be definitely on the list, but I don't see Man United going for Ancelotti. I don't. Yeah, we can bring Sancho. Listen, you're the first one I've heard say that. I don't think people should be sleeping on Sancho because if Man United are looking for a left winger, I would like someone to tell me what left winger is realistic that United can get. Because again, I done a stream the other day on the left wingers, and the only one I could think of which is actually young, that is realistic, was Antonio Nusa at Leipzig. But again, he's relatively unproven as well. So when the left wingers that are out there, there ain't none. You know, if anyone's in the chat that can give me some names, let me know. Let me know. What is the main visual difference between Sancho and Martinez? I wonder if that plays a part in the narratives. Bro, we all know what it is. It's the skin color. Let's just keep it real, man. It's the skin color. Because I've heard a lot of fans slating Jadon Sancho, yeah, for what happened with Eric Ten Hag. But then a lot of these fans, I can guarantee you, are backing Lisandro over Nicky Butt. Just tells you everything. You know what I mean? As I said, it should never come to this, man. Just keep it the same way throughout. If you're gonna say that Sancho, you know, if you think Sancho done wrong, cool, that's your opinion. But when Nicky Butt is saying what he said about Lisandro, the best thing Lisandro could do is ignore it. But then I'm hearing fans saying that, you know, Nicky Butt was out of line for what he said, but then the same energy is not given to Sancho. We all know what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah, there you go. Ten Hag called him out for being lazy, but just because Ten Hag called him out for being lazy, that doesn't mean it was true. Because unless you're on the training pitch, you know what I mean? That's just an opinion. Like Ten Hag could come and tell me that, I don't know, that Jadon Sancho, was the worst player in training. Like he can say that, but I don't care about that. Because unless I've seen it with my own eyes, that's just someone giving their opinion. That is it. So when he's coming out saying that Sancho's lazy, there's fans that are just jumping on the bandwagon because they don't like Sancho. But, unless you're there, pitch side to go and see that, you're seeing every training session, you're just getting it off a manager that doesn't clearly rate the player. Because why is it in Germany they weren't saying that he was lazy in training? Why didn't Michael Carrick say that he was lazy in training when he was there? Why is it that Ten Hag is saying that? Because Ten Hag and him obviously fell out over something. And the fact that, Man United lost the game and he goes out and criticizes Sancho, that tells you everything about Ten Hag. So again, when there's fans out there that are trying to say that Sancho's lazy, I'd say it's lazy in just believing that. Because unless you're there, then it's just nonsense, really. Sorry, got so many questions. Who's this secret loan deal? I'll be honest with you, yeah, I haven't got a clue who it is. But from what I've been hearing, there's a couple of names that have been coming up. Loftus-Cheek, Wilfred Ndidi. Who was the other one? There was someone else. And Dennis Zakaria. They're the three names that I've heard, but I'll be honest, I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue who it is, but what I would say is, I think if we bring in a midfielder of one of them, it wasn't what I'd expect. But listen, there was no way we can go for Conor Gallagher because for me, Loftus-Cheek for me, Zakaria and Ndidi, in terms of where they're going to play, I'd have them over Conor Gallagher. I just don't rate Conor Gallagher one bit. But, yeah, listen, I'm not too sure, man. But there's some of the names that I've been hearing anyway. He ain't changing back four. Glad you kicked that idiot out. I don't know. I've missed it, man. Guys, I'm going through the chat now, so I've missed what's been happening. Guys, if there's anyone coming in the chat, yeah, disrespecting, yeah, and I see it, I'm just going to block you. And mods, do your job as well. If anyone's chatting rubbish, if anyone's being personal, then just block them. Because, as I said, unless you've got positive chat, then you're not welcome here. It's that simple. You know what I mean? If you have a difference of opinion and you have a reason for why you don't want that player, then cool. But anyone coming in there and that's disrespecting, mods, make sure you're blocking. Yeah, Xabi Alonso's not coming to United, man. It's I'm not sure where that's coming from. He's more likely to go to Liverpool. Casemiro's legs are gone. Defo need a new DM. Again, that's nonsense. What the thing is, yeah, this whole Casemiro's legs are gone, yeah. Again, this is just coming from it's coming from certain people, and there's other fans that are just running with it. Because how comes his legs weren't gone against Man City? There's a reason for that. So this whole his legs are gone, the only reason people thinking that is because of the setup of Ruben Amorim. Amorim set up in a way to make people think that his legs are gone. But if you know Casemiro's career, you would realize that he's never played man for man press in the midfield. He's never done that in his career. And again, let alone doing it when you're getting older, which makes it harder. So my thing is, yeah, people are saying that his legs are gone. That's just being prompted off of other fans that are just have an agenda. You know what I mean? His legs are gone when? When if his legs are gone? Because his legs didn't look like they were gone against Man City. So again, that's just nonsense, man. That's just nonsense. Yeah, Fitz, man, don't get drawn into that, man. Just ignore them people. Listen, people that are coming on there and they want to troll, you know, as I said, man, yeah, listen, let them do their thing, man. If they're chatting rubbish, just block them straight away, man. We ain't got time for that on there. But yeah, don't get drawn into that, man. Guys, again, I'm behind, man, so I'm just catching up with some of the chat. Julian Brandt, yeah, but yeah, big up to Exedra. But what I would say about Julian Brandt, I think the reason why I don't think Julian Brandt would be needed, yeah, is because I'm looking at what United are probably looking at on that left-hand side. I think they're probably looking at someone that is probably a bit more direct with pace. And this I'm trying to say to you, like, because I much prefer the inverted. Yeah, I much prefer the inverted. You know, right-footed on the left, left-footed on the right. And what I think with Julian Brandt's more of a number 10. You know, and he's more the profile of what we've kind of got in a Cunha, in a sense. Because Cunha's not overly quick, you know, but he's kind of like a maverick. And I think if you bring in Julian Brandt, he's sort of like a mavericky kind of player, in a sense. So I think we would need, if you want to get that kind of player, someone that's a slightly bit more direct. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, yeah? Again, the reason I'm saying Sancho is because Sancho's played in the Premier League, you know. He's technically our player still until the end of the contract, you know. And even though he's kind of like in the mold of a Julian Brandt, you know, at least he's used to playing in that kind of position. So I think if we go and spend big money, I don't see why you would go and get, you know, like a Julian Brandt, in my opinion. But again, this just says that there's not really too many options out there. That's the truth. You know what I mean? So this is where it is. Yeah, big up, man. Big up. Big up to Vabik as well. Hey, listen, allow that, man. Looking handsome as always. Yeah, listen, allow that, man. Nah, big up, man. Big up for coming on. Sancho, honestly, better than Brandt in terms of pace and dribbling. Julian knows about the game and is very experienced, but he lacks pace. Yeah, listen, I like Julian Brandt. I think he's a good player, but I don't think we need to go and spend money on a Julian Brandt when we've already got like a Sancho. So that's my reasoning for it. You know, that is my reasoning for it. Guys, make sure we're hitting them likes. Come on, we got 16 of you watching, 13 likes. Let's hit the likes. Come on, big up yourselves. Big up to Philip Lemon as well. Big up, man. 2 hours and I'm going home to watch the Arsenal. Listen, you better watch Arsenal closely, man, because I'm telling you this now, yeah. I can smell 2 defeats on the bounce. I can smell it. Inter and United. I can smell it. So listen, clock enders, man. You go and watch your team. I tell you now, yeah. If he goes to Inter Milan and plays a strong team, and you get beat, panic stations for the Man United game. Panic stations. I promise you. What do you think about the AFCON final, bro? You know what? I didn't see the AFCON final. I still got to see the highlights, man. I've been busy, but obviously I had Fitz and Jonas on yesterday, and obviously they spoke about the madness that happened over there. But yeah, no, I've got to try and catch the highlights, man. Obviously Champions League football tonight as well. So yeah, I've got to kind of catch the highlights. But yeah, I said Senegal will win it at the start. You know, as soon as I see Senegal beat England, you know, I thought, you know what, Senegal, man, they got some players. Don't underestimate them. And look, they've gone all the way and won it, man. You know, big up to NDI, because I think he's a top player. You know, Papa Sarr got a trophy now as well. Nicholas Jackson, another trophy. Who else they got? El Hadji Malik Diouf. You know what? That El Hadji Malik Diouf at West Ham, I like him. I think he's a good player. You know, he could be on the move in the future as well. You know, Koulibaly, you know, ex-Chelsea, ex-Napoli, you know, getting a trophy. Even you've got Idrissa Gueye as well at Everton. So, yeah, man. He might keep 3 or 4 ticking over. Boy, who knows, man? Who knows? What do you think Man United needs? New players or new owners? Both. Do you reckon Villa can win the Prem? Might be far-fetched. We lost points this week, to be fair. But I reckon we could scare Arsenal till the end. Bro, listen, Arsenal are scared of themselves, man. Don't worry about Arsenal, man. Listen, the fact that people will say they've gained a point on City and Aston Villa, yeah, people will be getting excited, yeah. Their fans will be getting excited, but they've missed the chance when they drew with Forest, because if they would have went 9 points clear, even myself would have started saying, you know what, I just don't know, man. They could actually fluke the league. The fact they drew the game, yeah, is a problem, because I tell you this now, yeah. This is what's gonna happen, and mark my words. Mark my words, yeah. I'm pretty confident in this. City are playing Wolves, yeah. Before Arsenal play United, so City will beat Wolves. I know City have been poor. They haven't won a game in 4, but they'll beat Wolves at home. So when they beat Wolves at home, it'll be down to 4 points. United are gonna play Arsenal, yeah. I think we beat them, yeah. And then, because I'm looking at City playing Arsenal still, and I think City will win that game, because City, as we know throughout the years, when they need to win a game, they'll get it done. And I'm looking at it now as as Arsenal are 1 point ahead of City, because City will beat Wolves. I think we beat Arsenal, and then City are gonna beat Arsenal, in my opinion, yeah. So I'm looking at 1 point. So, and again, Villa, I think Villa's next game, I could be wrong, I think they're playing Newcastle away, which will be tough. So if they manage to come out of that Newcastle game with a win, you know, then I think it's something that we'll have to look at. But I think I'm not sure if they beat Newcastle away, man. I think it might be a draw at best for them. But yeah, man, I think there's still a long way to go, man. But I wouldn't be scared of Arsenal, because Arsenal are their own doing, really. You know, they've as Clockender said the other day, I think they're unbeaten in 33 games in all comps or something like that. But listen, it's the business end of the season that we're going to be looking at. And as I said, I think, yeah, I think City are going to beat Wolves. They're going to beat Wolves. And then the game against United, I think we beat them, man. I'm confident. El Juve has retired from for 3 years. No, man, it's El Juve. No, it's El Hadji Malik Diouf. You're thinking of El Hadji Diouf. El Malik Diouf plays for West Ham as a left back. He just won the AFCON. Still 7 points clear, Gav. Yeah, listen, 7 points is nothing. City have hauled back a bigger lead before. So I wouldn't be getting carried away with that, man. I wouldn't be getting carried away. Nah, Gyökeres is rubbish, man. Listen. I hope Gyökeres starts. I hope he starts. Listen. You can say we're not going to beat you, but let's see. Let's see, man. Let's see. As I said, if you guys happen to beat us, then fair enough. But I'm not scared of a team, man, that the majority of their goals have come from set pieces. You know, there's no danger of you guys doing anything in open play. So, yeah, we just got to be switched on to the set pieces. And if that happens, then, listen, it's going to be a long day for you lot. Oh, sorry, guys, not Saturday, Sunday. My bad, Sunday. So, again, City plays Saturday. They put the pressure on, 4 points. And all of a sudden, yeah, you know, 7 points does sound crazy. But if City win their game 4 points all of a sudden, and you still got to play them, I'm telling you, man, listen, don't be surprised. That's all I'm going to say. Is it just me, or is Haaland kind of flopping this season? I mean, to be fair, man, the guy's got, what, 20-odd goals already? So I wouldn't say it's flopping. I think Haaland might be a bit fatigued, because he does play a lot of games. And I think Marmoush is back now anyway, so Pep might even rotate Marmoush and Haaland. So, yeah, listen, man. But again, Haaland's going to be there, you know, when it comes to the crucial games. And don't be surprised if Haaland, you know, scores against Arsenal as well. Telling you, so I wouldn't really be getting too carried away, you know. But guys, listen, we're gonna wrap it up anyway. Let me know what you think about. Let me know what you think about the managerial appointments. As I said, for me, the three that I've got in the thumbnail for me should be the three favourites in my opinion. You know, I can't really look past those three purely because they're coaches. And what I would say is any other manager that comes in from the list that I've gone through, you know, take Fabregas out of there because it's too early for him for me. Glasner, Iraola, those are the only ones. Nagelsmann, they're the only sort of coaches on there. And if it is one of them, even though they're not my first choice, but at least they're coaches. And Man United need to be making a coach appointment, not a pragmatic approach. So this is why, for me, Ancelotti and Zidane, you know, I'll give them a pass because Zidane, the player, you know, and it's nostalgia for me, really. And Ancelotti is Ancelotti. But apart from that, I just want to see a proper coach come and coach these players if it means Michael Carrick is not going to stay on. And as I said, man, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see, man. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, listen, guys, big up, man. Big up yourselves each and every time. I should be back tomorrow. Who knows, man? When Arsenal gets smoked against Inter Milan, I might be back tonight. So just keep an eye on the notifications because I'll tell you this now, yeah? I don't think Arsenal not beating Inter Milan. They're not beating Inter Milan. So if they get smoked, I'll come back on. I'll see. But if not, probably be back tomorrow. And obviously do the build-up to the Man United Arsenal game. So I'm going to do a match preview possibly on Friday. Friday or Saturday, I'll do a match preview to the game Man United Arsenal on Sunday. And obviously, we got the watch-along. So, yeah, make sure you guys join us for the watch-along as well. So it's going to be a massive game, man. I'm looking forward to it. But other than that, big up to all the mods each and every time. Big up to all the newcomers. Big up to all the regulars as well. And guys, make sure you're smashing the like button on your way out. Make sure you share the channel. Make sure you sub to the channel as well. And again, make sure you check out all my other content as well. I've got some other content probably coming out today and tomorrow. So again, I've been doing a what's it called again? Great to the game. So if you guys have seen it already, I've done the real Ronaldo R9 and I've done Ronaldinho. So my next, I've got 4 to do. Sorry, I've done another 2, which should be coming out today and tomorrow. And I've got another few to do as well this week. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Obviously, it's in the playlist as well if you guys want to view. So all it is really is a talk on some of the players of the past. And I think it's important to keep, you know, those players' memories alive because a lot of the footballers, Aston Villa recall Leon Bailey, you know? Aston Villa recall Leon Bailey. That's mad. I just see that just now. Because, yeah, I think it's important, yeah, to keep an eye, to remember some of the greats of the game, man. Because in an era now of just pure GA that people talk about, a lot of these top players never had serious GA. So, yeah, basically what I do, I just do like a 5-10 minute talk on the players of the past, you know. So yeah, I've done 2 so far, so I've got a few more to do. So yeah, make sure you guys give that a check and check out all the other content as well. And let me just see, guys, just quickly. Just bear me 1 minute, guys. Let me just see who's live. I think Flawless might be live. Let me just check. Let's have a check. Yeah, guys. So Flawless is live in 2 hours. Yeah. So obviously Flawless from Sarcasm City TV. So yeah, make sure you guys go over if you haven't subbed to Flawless's channel yet, and yeah, make sure you guys go over there and give him some support on there. And then when you go over there, guys, just type spam the chat with GavGoesIn's raid. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you guys. It's in 2 hours time. Flawless. Yeah. So I think he's talking on Brian Mbuemo. So yeah, make sure you guys go over to Flawless's channel and make sure you're hitting that like button and showing him some support. And as I said, make sure you put in the chat GavGoesIn's raid. So you'll be live in 2 hours time, guys. So apart from that, big up to yourselves each and every time. And as I said, guys, Sunday, I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie, because I think we're gonna do it. So fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens. But other than that, guys, have a good rest of the day. As I said, go over to Flawless's channel in a couple of hours' time. Smash GavGoesIn's raid. And yeah, we'll catch up soon. As I said, if Arsenal drop points or get beat, then, keep an eye on notifications. I should be back. But other than that, big up yourselves each and every time. And I'll catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.